morning everyone, it's Brett here, Lionheart84. Actually I'm saying good morning, but it's good afternoon actually, time flies when you're making videos. It's Brett here, Lionheart84, your UK based exotic fruit growing enthusiast. Just going to make a short video about the curse of indoor plant and fruit growers, and that's fungus gnats. Excuse any noise in the background, by the way. I think next door's children are playing on their trampoline, but it's not going to spoil the video, probably won't pick up the sound anyway. I'm going to try a new experiment. I've decided to try a biological control for fungus gnats, because I'm sure you're aware of the problem if you've been growing plants inside, but the damp soil that your houseplants require, and in particular the exotic fruit trees require, because most of them are evergreen and they do grow throughout the year, although they basically rest in the winter here because of our low daylight hours and our lower temperatures. They will still have some activity in the roots and the shoots, which means I tend to keep the soil not bone dry, because if it's bone dry the evergreens can really suffer. So obviously there is a need to keep a little bit of moisture in the soil, although they mustn't be wet because obviously they're very prone to root rot. But I'm afraid one of the curses I suffer from here are the fungus gnats, which are also known as sciarid or sciarid flies. I'm not sure how you pronounce it. The adults themselves don't really do any harm to the plants, but obviously if you've got the plants as I have in the house, particularly in my kitchen, it can be really irritating to have those horrible little flies flying around your head when you're trying to watch television or eat dinner, and they're just a nuisance basically. But they lay their eggs in damp compost, and the larvae don't really do much harm to adult plants because they can't really do enough damage to the roots or the stem of the plant to cause a problem. But if you're growing quite seedlings or cuttings, as I'm trying to, the very young plants and the seedlings and the seeds as well, before they've germinated or started to germinate, are extremely prone to attack by the larvae. So if you ever see your young seedlings or seeds just failing and dying off, it's quite possibly due to the larvae. There are various ways to try and control them, which I'll show a picture of later. In fact, I can probably rotate the camera slightly off the stand and show. I have actually got the yellow sticky pads hanging up, which obviously attract the adult flies, and the theory is the flies fly into them, get stuck to them, and obviously can't reproduce. But that doesn't deal with the problem of the breeding of the flies if they've already laid their eggs in the soil. So what I decided to try was a biological control, which I've bought from a company that are out on Amazon, and these are actually these are nematodes for sciarid or fungus gnat larvae. Now the idea is, when it comes in a little packet like this, which has to be used by a certain use-by date, because one assumes that what's in here are fresh either nematodes or nematode eggs, not too sure which. And the idea is basically you mix this in with a specific amount of water, which it gives you the instructions for on the pack. You mix them in with a certain amount of water, and then you distribute that water into watering cans, and then you put some in every single pot in your house. And the idea is, I presume the nematodes in here, either they are nematodes or they hatch into nematodes. They spread through the soil and they attack and destroy or eat, I don't know if they digest or kill the larva of the fungus gnats. So obviously, as long as you've got a fungus gnat problem, the nematode should keep going in the soil. It's completely biological or organic, rather than trying to use chemicals which you water into the soil. Obviously you could spray the fungus flies with some kind of chemical, but that's not ideal when they're inside a house. So I've been reading the instructions, and basically all you do is you add 1.2 litres of water to a clean container. They've suggested a bucket, but I haven't got a suitable clean bucket, so I'm going to use a large saucepan, and that's got 1.2 litres of water in it. Now obviously that's not 100% hygienic from terms of when you're going to go cooking, so I will thoroughly wash the saucepan afterwards. But you basically just peel the lid off this. Can't see any signs of any movement, so these don't look like, I'm not sure if they are living in this mix or if this mix is actually nematodes. I really don't know. I don't know whether there's, I wouldn't know if there's like 50 nematodes in here or 5,000. It's impossible to know. So all I'm going to do is stir this mix into the saucepan, which I'm just doing now. So stir thoroughly, making sure the contents are mixed. So I'm just going to stir that with a pair of scissors, actually perfect for that. So you stir that thoroughly. Now it tells you to take 1/6, which is 200 millilitres of this solution, and place that into a 5 litre watering can, and then fill with water. So you fill it up to the brim of the watering can, and then basically you just water some of that solution into every pot. Now it really is important that you water it into every pot, because obviously if you miss any pots, there'll be no nematodes in those pots, and if any fungus gnats lay their larvae in those pots, clearly that's not going to serve its purpose, because there won't be any nematodes in them. So I'm going to try, in a minute I'm just going to spread that out. I'm going to water some into every pot. It does say that you should apply it when it's above 10 degrees centigrade, which clearly is because it's in the house, and it does say you should apply it to damp soil. I mean, clearly if you water these into bone dry plants, I should imagine the nematodes are going to die almost instantly, because there's no the soil's too dry for them to move around. Having said that, if you've got very dry plants, you probably won't have fungus gnats problems either, because the fungus gnat larvae obviously need a damp soil. But as I said, because they're not cacti, these are tropical house or tropical fruit plants, so I'm having to keep the soil slightly damp on them in winter, because they shouldn't dry out totally, otherwise you're going to end up with a lot of dead evergreens, or at least no leaves on them. So in a minute I'm going to try spreading this into, I've only got a 2 litre watering can rather than a 5 litre one, so obviously I'll use a smaller mix of solution. It says you can't overdose it, so it wouldn't matter if you're using a smaller amount of water, because you haven't got many pots. It just means it's going to have more nematodes in each portion you put into the pots, but it's not really going to be a problem. So in a minute I'm going to try this out. Can't give you a result. Obviously I can't give you a result on it. It's not very scientific, and one assumes it's going to take several weeks for the nematodes to do their job and tackle the fungus gnats, but I'll hopefully see in a few weeks time if the fungus gnat problems drop down. In the meantime I'll carry on using the mechanical method of those yellow sticky pads, which seems to catch a fair number of the adults, and hopefully if we can eliminate the larvae life cycle stage of the fungus gnats or sciarid flies, hopefully I'll get less of them floating around my head while I'm trying to watch television or eat dinner. Just one of the problems you get with bringing the tropical fruits indoors in winter, but it wouldn't really matter if they were in a greenhouse or outside, because you're not going to notice the fungus gnats at all, but they are a very irritating little fly. And we'll see how this process works in the next few weeks and see if I notice any difference. Anyway, thanks for watching. It's Brett out for now. Welcome to give the video a thumbs up or a thumbs down. I won't be offended. You're welcome to share the video if you think it's going to be of any use to other people, and of course subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so, and hit that bell if you'd like to get notifications of any future videos. I hope the sun wasn't too shiny reflecting on the camera. It's very low at this time of year, the sun, so it tends to make it hard to film outside. But it's Brett out for now. Catch you up with you in the next video.